Well, hey there, boys and girls. Hey, Jerry Carlson here. This is Learn to Write Lessons for Patriots. And I thought I'd just share with you my experience of how I was able to terminate my relationship with the Democrat Party as a child of some blue collar union family who I guess were, Roosevelt Democrats who just absolutely just blindly followed. They didn't care what they did to them. They just followed because, after all, the rich get rich and the poor get poorer. You know, they both my parents passed away long before Barack Obama came along, but I just thought it was such a parroted line that I can't help but, anytime I ever hear that term again, I just want to go, the rich get rich and the poor get poor. Barack! You know, it's just like what a bunch of clowns, just doing the class warfare thing. But I finally shut them up one day. They were sitting in their favorite little tavern with all their friends, invited my wife and I over, and they started spouting off that crap. And I said, I never did understand that. It doesn't make a lick of sense to me. And they go, the rich get rich and the poor get poorer. So, so somebody's not voting right, right? Because if the Republicans are just for the rich, don't they need to make more people rich so they have more voters? I mean, you think they're suicidal or what? And if the Democrats, if they're just for the poor, does that mean they need to keep you good and poor? Or they need to prevent you from ever getting rich so they can keep their stranglehold around your neck for your vote? They never talked politics with me again after that. That just shut them down. Oh man, I was a pariah. I was the black sheep of the family. And I I used to vote their way though. They taught me. I voted against Ronald Reagan in 1980 and I voted for Walter Mondale, one of the few who did, in 1984 because I still believe their crap that Republicans are just for the rich. And then I started seeing Ronald Reagan's policies take effect, just like he promised they would. And all the dire consequences that the Democrats claimed, they just squealed like little pigs and tried to deflect and use their news media folks to try to change the subject or just change the narrative all the time. And it just pissed me off. It just really pissed me off. But the very deciding factor on me realizing that not only was I leaving the Democrat Party, they had already long left me because I was a gun owner and a hunter. And I got involved with the NRA and started reading their stuff and seeing all of the policies that the Democrats were trying to institute across the country to try to take away our Second Amendment rights. And back in those days, it was horrible. They had Saturday night special thing. They were trying to go after so-called assault rifles, but the final straw, the real final straw, put a lid on it for me forever, was when they decided to create this new law, cop killer bullet ban, cop killer bullets. And if you read the law, as the NRA pointed out to all the people in the Congress and the Senate, that that would ban, the way it was written, would ban any bullet that could pass through a cop's bulletproof vest. Sounds perfectly logical in the face of it, but that means every big game cartridge known to man, every rifle cartridge would be banned because bulletproof vests aren't made to stop rifle cartridges. They're made to stop handgun, rounds coming through their vest, because in close contact situations, normally that's what you're facing. And then the narrative changed. And then they claimed that they were trying to stop the cop killer armor piercing bullets. The NRA pointed out that those were already banned. And the news media ran with the Democrats' playbook and just spouted off for over a decade that the NRA is for cop killer bullets. And they prevented a ban of cop killer bullets. Well, lo and behold, I finally found out how many cops had actually been killed by cop killer bullets. And it was a number. It was a very round number. Like zero, nada, nothing, zippo, not a single one. So, what was the impetus? What was the motivation for instituting this cop killer bullet ban? It was just to disarm every American hunter, every American citizen, so we would not have any right to rise up against what they had planned, what they are doing to us today with lawfare, whatnot, what they're doing to a sitting, or excuse me, a former president and the sitting number one contender in the next presidential election, because they know for a fact that their power will be greatly diminished and they will not let loose. And anyway, after I saw the news media follow the line of the Democrats and everything that was just absolute bullcrap back in the 80s, I knew that this is a rigged system, and I didn't want anything to do with them. They were so corrupt. They were so dishonest. They were so deceitful. They don't represent me at all. If they represent you, then you're a liar and a cheat and a deceitful cretin also. And if you can't see that, my hat is red. Your hat must be blue. You got to stick up for your team, right? Got to wear your little blue hat because you're a little blue boy, right? Got to wear your little blue hat. Well, this is not Yankees versus the Red Sox. This is Americans versus Americans. And when the Democrat Party turns on the American people, they're turning on all of us. Anybody who stands in their way. Understand that. You better, because it will hit you right between the eyes one of these days. Because you will find out that you are just a useful idiot for their lust for power, just like all leftist regimes have always treated the people. And anyway, I've got to tell you this little history story about guns and gun control and all this other stuff. Well, back in Oregon, which is where I grew up, the governor changed the law in 1990, and she got the NRA to agree to instituting instant background checks in trade for liberalizing the concealed weapons permit laws statewide rather than being decided by each county. Because, see, in the main city of Portland, Multnomah County, there were only 12 concealed weapons permits issued. One to a black man, one black man. He used to be part of the city council, and he had been a very well-known newsman prior to that. So apparently his fame and fortune, preceded him. So he was awarded the right to have the means to defend himself. But if you were from Southern Oregon, say in Grants Pass, and you got your Southern Oregon sheriff, who is definitely a lot more conservative, easily hands over your right to be able to, your permit to carry a concealed weapon, and you come up to Portland, that same sheriff in Portland in Multnomah County would prosecute you for carrying your gun, even though you had a concealed weapons permit from your county. It's just like New York does today to people that come across state lines with guns that are perfectly legal to be carried and to be owned, and from their particular states. And anyway, and why did the governor of Oregon decide to do that? She thought she pulled a fast one on the NRA because she got them to concede to instant background checks, which never been a problem anyway, because criminals don't buy their guns from gun dealers where you got to do a background check. But nonetheless, the point though was she thought that by allowing all these Republican, which is, most Democrats only think Republicans are gun owners, um, by allowing all these Republican gun owners to carry, and they're going to start shooting each other up because they couldn't help themselves because they're armed and dangerous, that then she could easily change the law outlawing, concealed weapons after that, after they prove her point. But just the opposite happened. The concealed weapons permits from the Multnomah County went from 12, the beginning of 1990, to over 200,000 by the end of the year. It's a little bit of a jump. The crime rate dropped by nearly 30%. Overall crime rate. Violent crime rate definitely dropped. And why did that happen? It was because the criminals were in fear of their intended victim. Probably a lot of those intended victims pulled out their gun, never had to fire a shot. But it was really easy for the cops to find the perp because they follow the little trail of poop coming out their pant leg as they're running down the street screaming like a little girl to get away. So they were totally blown away by that. But did you know that that has been the case in every city in America that has done the same thing? Every state across the country, same thing has happened. Violent crime rates go down the more concealed weapons permit holders population rises. Isn't that interesting? Flies right in the face of everything the media tries to tell you, but the media just fills you full of lies. The media only spouts off whatever the Democrat Party tells them to spout off. And that was part of the thing that got me going was Bernard Getz, who was a New York uh, citizen in the early 80s. He got robbed numerous times traveling on the subway. And he went to the city of New York and tried to get a concealed weapons permit. And they told him, no, your life isn't really worth anything. Not to them, anyway. And so he finally decided to go buy his own gun and carry anyway, because he'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. So anyway, one night, coming home from work, he gets approached by 4 little thugs who had sharpened screwdrivers, and they were trying to put the pinch on him, and told him to hand over his wallet, sticking one of their screwdrivers, in his face. He pulled out his gun and started blasting them. He shot, I believe, 3 of them, and One of them was crippled for life, and at least he wasn't injured. But the city of New York, the state of New York, prosecuted him to the full extent of their criminal law. They were the criminals, not him, because he had a Second Amendment right to the means to defend his own life. It was given to us by God. It was protected by the Second Amendment, which the city and the state of New York violate on a daily basis. So I did an article in the local newspaper in Oregon back in the mid 80s about that. And I couldn't believe that the editorial board lady actually even let me, get it printed, but I had to back it up. I had to give her all the stats, statistics, and everything that I spouted off because she didn't believe them. And I rolled them right out because I researched it. I had several quotes from Federalist papers like, by what color of propriety can the force necessary for defense be limited? By those who cannot limit the force of offense. Now, that is a little out of context, but it's still very true about, how can you tell somebody they can't have a gun to defend themselves when you can't keep a perpetrator from having a gun to try to rob, intimidate, kill them, their family, or whatever, you know, by what color of propriety? I mean, by what common sense can that be contrived that you can deny the honest man, you know, from defending himself from something that he has no control over from somebody who's going to come in without any rules at all, and that was actually based on why we allowed a standing army and a select militia and a navy even in times of peace was we needed to be have a defense ready to go in order to thwart attack, not that we needed to shoot a bullet, but just the pure presence of an armed army and navy and select militia would deter our adversaries. Same with criminals. Same thing. It was just a very, very basic principle. And anyway, but Bernard Getz got crucified for that, and I made the point that he got crucified and sent to jail for something that was essentially legal in Oregon. And that was before the governor. I don't know, maybe my article had an effect on her too. Maybe she decided that, that maybe it would be okay for people to do this, but I still say that she probably hoped and prayed because all of her liberal friends had told her, that, hey, it's just going to be a bunch of Republicans shooting other Republicans. What do you got to lose? And and she found out she was absolutely wrong. That was Vera Katz, ex-governor, mayor of Portland at one time, and became governor of Oregon. And anyway, so um, it was just it was just something that really irritated the crap out of me, though, that when I found out that the news media was just playing cover for the Democrat Party's lies, and it's just gotten worse over the years, that they don't represent me. They quit representing me and people like me years and years ago. I don't think they represent anybody in this country. That's why they're allowing millions upon millions of these illegals across our country, going to try to get them the opportunity to vote because they're going to demand that it's racist to ask for ID so they can hand them all ballots. And we're going to have illegals voting in our national election, this next election cycle. And it's got to be stopped. And, but the Democrat Party isn't for the people, isn't at all. And, you know, half the rhino Republicans aren't either. They're just in it for themselves. People like Mitt Romney and the ilk like them, it's just sickening. And they need to be thrown out of office and get some real people with a spine that, maybe we get them a fresh dose of grow a set, which I think most of the Congress and Senate both need. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you what got me from being the liberal Democrat voter as a youngster to pulling my head out of my own butt and coming up for air and deciding that, wow, these people don't represent me at all. I don't think they represent you. They definitely don't represent anybody of color because look at what they've done to the school system and the standards that they've have written off that people of color, whether you're black or brown or whatever, that you don't have what it takes to be a productive member of society and meet those standards, the highest standards in the land. Apparently, none of them ever watched the movie um, from the Apollo days. You know, the one with the black women who were um, math scientists that were just brilliant. I mean, it was an amazing story. I'm going brain dead on the name of the movie right now, but my golly, it's really important that you have to understand that this Democrat Party is nothing like it was even 20 years ago. It's nothing but a bunch of leftists, and they are out to destroy America and everything it stands for. And don't let them try to tease you otherwise because it's all about power to them. And it's just sickening. It's just sickening. They are exactly why our founding fathers wrote a constitution the way they did with separate powers and whatnot that we couldn't have such a iron-fisted approach. But right now, they're in charge like never before, just doing lawfare and just trying to destroy this country through the most despicable tactics I have ever seen. They don't care about the rule of law. They don't care about American law and order. They don't care to uphold it. They're just into their own little power trip and they think they're pulling a fast one and they're going to get all the accolades from their cocktail parties from their liberal Democrat friends. It's just sad. It's just despicable. And anybody who defends them can go straight to hell because that's where you're going to end up. Anyway, Jerry Carlson. And I'm really, really uh, saddened by the state of our country right now. And we need Trump to be reelected. We need him. We don't just want him, we need him to be reelected because without him, it's just going to get worse. And we need to clean out the rhinos out of the Republican Party. So get out and vote, will you? Thanks again.